My guest is Dr. Michael Kimmel, America's Angry White Men. And Dr. Kimmel is a distinguished professor of sociology and gender studies at Stony Brook University, New York. He's also executive director at Center for the Study of Men and Masculinities, and author, editor of more than 20 books, including Manhood in America. Manhood is gone. Sorry about that. The Gendered Society, The History of Men, and others books. And we're going to tell you how to get the doctor's book. I wanted to talk to him today about America's Angry White Men. Dr. Kimmel, welcome to the show, sir.
Nice to be with you, Jesse.
I appreciate you being here. Very interesting article on the Huffington Post, America's Angry White Men. In reading this, I couldn't tell if you were a liberal or conservative. Are you liberal?
I am.
You are liberal. And what does that mean to you to be a liberal, especially being a man?
What it means to me is that I believe that America has a long way to go to live up to its promise of liberty and justice for all.
And when you say a long ways to go, what liberty and justice for all, who are you referring to?
Well, I'm referring to those who have for centuries been discriminated against, who are not yet fully equal in our society, and who, by virtue of being individuals endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, should be. And so, therefore, as a liberal, I believe it's the job of the government to aid in the movement toward greater equality, not to stand in their way.
And who are those people that you're referring to that are being held back?
Who are the people? Well, it's not that I'm referring to. I think it's the all of the social science data that shows that there continues to be discrimination against women, people of color, LGBT people, immigrants, etc.
And when you say the government, do you know that we now have a black president and everybody and their mama in his administration are women, and then as you call them, LGBT folks and black?
Is that right? Really? I when I look at the Congress, I don't see that. I actually see a whole bunch of old white men. And in fact, during this most recent budget shutdown, it was the women who said, all right, enough of this, on both sides of the aisle. Conservative women, Republicans and Democrats said, all right, enough of this nonsense. Let's get this done. And it was they who actually brought the men back. So actually, I don't see what you're saying. I do see that we have an African-American president. We have, in fact, a mixed-race president. Secondly, I do see that we have, more women in political positions than we ever have in our history. I consider that entirely good. But it's nowhere near equal.
What would equal be for you? How would you know when it's equal?
Well, I think equality can mean a lot of different things. Equality can mean, for example, sameness. Everybody exactly 50-50 across the board. I think that's silly. I'm interested in what I would call equity. Now, when I say equity, I mean that people perceive things as fair, and perceive themselves as having an equal shot. Now, currently in our society, the reason I wrote the article that I did and the reason I wrote my new book, Angry White Men, is because neither women nor men perceive the situation as fair and equal. There are large numbers of angry white men who think that the switch has been thrown, the playing field is now tipped entirely in the direction of everybody else except white men.
When in Congress and the Senate as well as president, it is we the people who decide who's going to go there. The government itself cannot make that decision. And so the people go out and vote for who they want to represent them.
Right, exactly, and that's why it's so baffling that the Republican.
But why do you blame that on angry white men when it's the people of all colors
Oh, I'm not blaming anything
who are
on
making
them.
that decision.
I'm not blaming anything on them. My book is an attempt to understand why so many white men, arguably some of the most privileged people on the face of the earth, aside from a hereditary aristocracy, why so many white men in America actually perceive themselves as to be the victims of reverse discrimination.
We're going to get to that in 1 minute, and you name some of the so-called angry white men. But let me ask, you said that this discrimination is also against lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender folks. Mm-hmm. So do you want rapists and murderers to have equal opportunity in this country as well? You want it for gay people and transgender folks. Do you want other people who commit sin to have the same equal opportunities?
Well, I don't know what lesbians and gays and transgender people have anything to do with rapists. In fact, most of the rapists are heterosexual.
That's not true.
I'm not following that.
Because these folks are people who are locked in sin and now has been held up as good. And so my thing is, if you're promoting them and you want those type people to have equal opportunity, do you want it for all sinners?
Oh, I see. So our disagreement is whether being born a certain way
you're not born that way
or not.
You're not born that way.
Is that a sin or not? So I don't think that's a productive thing for us to talk about, because I don't see it as sin. I see it as as an orientation, as the way you're born. And so when you're born this way, then if you're just as if you're born white or born black, you should have equal opportunities.
But most sinful people would say that they're born that way.
Oh,
so
I don't think
that's
so.
Not new. But I want to get. I do. Most of them, not all, of course, but most say
I
that.
don't think so. I think people make choices. I think that people
so homosexuals decided
crime,
to be a homosexual then, right?
No, I think that they followed what they felt was their true self. I think that's quite different than making a choice to rob a bank or to rape somebody, or to be a pedophile priest.
I disagree.
Well, okay, that's good. We disagree.
And just for the record, the priests who committed pedophile were homosexual men.
Oh, no,
just
they were
FYI.
not. Oh,
but,
no, they were not.
Yes, they were.
In fact, many of them were quite equal.
The fact that they had sex with boys meant that they were homosexuals.
Oh, no. They would never have been interested in sex with a grown man.
Heterosexuals do not have sex with boys.
Some of them were actually indiscriminate about which gender they had sex with, as long as they were children. It's the children that's eroticized.
But we do agree that heterosexual men do not have sex with boys. They don't have sex with the same sex.
No. You're missing my point. That most of the pedophile priests were pedophiles. They were not
pedophile
gay.
Homosexuals.
No, not at all. They would not have sex with other men. They wanted sex with children.
But that's what most homosexuals want. Too. That's what most homosexuals want. They want sex with children.
Oh, not true at all. You may think these sorts of things because of some ideology.
No, it's not because of ideology. It's because of truth.
I am a social scientist, and the data are quite convincing on this. Your ideas are based on ideology, perhaps.
No, it's not.
Absolutely.
No, it's based on truth.
There's no social science data that would support this argument at all.
Because social science is dumb.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, that's where we'll disagree.
Okay. Dr. Kimmel, you believe that white men are angry because they are no longer privileged above women and minority, that they can't exclude others. Are you a white man?
I am.
Are you an angry man?
Yes.
And what are you angry about?
I'm angry at predatory lenders. I'm angry at obstructionists in Congress. I'm angry at those who think that people that there are some people who are less than others. Sure.
And so why did you put your name on this list?
Why didn't I?
Yes.
Well, I mean, in the book, I actually do talk about what I'm angry about.
Is Obama angry?
That's a good question. I suspect that he may be, but politically, it would be a disaster for a black man to try to get elected by being angry. I think that would be
It would be a disaster for any man to try to get elected and show anger?
Oh, I don't think so. I think a lot of the guys that you might even be friends with are very angry and get off on it, and their followers like them to be angry. In fact,
I noticed that you did not list Harry Reid or Obama or Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton, Chris Matthews. You didn't list angry white and black men. Why not?
I did list a lot of angry white men, just not the ones that you're suggesting.
Why not? Why do you list those guys? They're in the forefront of our minds.
Well, I actually listed people who I thought exemplified why the turn among a large number of men to a kind of rage that sometimes gets politicized, but in other cases it's not political at all. It's a kind of anger where they take it out on other people.
How do you know that to be true? How do you know you're not just making this up out of your own anger? For example, you listen.
Because I've done something that social scientists do. I've done research. I've actually gone and talked to them. I've read all the data about them.
So these Rush Limbaugh and Sheriff Joe Arpaio, Clint Eastwood and others told you that they are angry because they are no longer privileged above women and minority. They told you that.
What do you mean?
You say you went and talked to these guys, and these are some of the guys that you have on your list.
No. I said I went and talked to a large number of men who are angry. I've talked to some neo-Nazis and white supremacists. I've talked to men's rights guys.
Did you talk to Rush Limbaugh?
No.
And why did you list him as an angry white man?
Because I listened to his radio show, and I listened and I read transcripts of his shows, and I got a sense that he exemplifies the kind of anger that I'm talking about.
So you're just making this up. Rush Limbaugh is not angry because they are no longer.
What do you mean
no
making
privileged.
this up?
Rush
No,
Limbaugh
that's
is doing
not true.
quite well in life. None of this liberal mess is holding him back at all. So why would you list him, Rush? And I know Rush. Why would you list him as a white man who's angry because he's no longer privileged?
Because I read the transcript of his shows, and that's the impression that I got by reading the text. That's called research. It's not like making things up. I don't know where you get this idea.
But you're making this up about Rush when you say
I'm not making anything up.
Rush is fighting to save America, to save the family. He's fighting for freedom. He doesn't care who earned their privilege. We all have a chance to do that. He's not against that. But you list him as one of the guys who's against that.
I do.
But that's not fair because you're not telling the truth.
I am telling the truth.
And Sheriff Joe Arpaio, what is he angry about?
He's angry about immigrants invading our country.
Illegal aliens. Are you angry about that?
Am I angry about what?
Illegal aliens invading our country.
Well, it's interesting. I really have no position whatsoever. I think that people who are here, I do think that people who come to this country should come legally. But I think that people who are already here are here. It's a done deal. So let's figure it out.
You're not bothered that day after day, day in and day out, illegal aliens are coming in and invading our country. They are bringing in crime. They are taking jobs away from the American citizens. They are bringing in drugs. And they hate whites. They hate blacks. You're not angry about that.
I don't accept the premises that you're describing. So it's a silly question for me to answer.
But you're not. When you say you don't accept it, you don't believe those things are happening.
Do you know that more Mexican Americans have moved back to Mexico in the past 5 years than have come here?
Do you know believe that those things are happening?
Do I believe? I'm talking to you from the point of view of what we know in terms of social science, not in terms of what I believe. So it's a very difficult conversation for me to have.
So let me ask, you don't see then, according to social science, you don't see that illegal aliens are invading our country and they are affecting the country in a negative way when it comes to the economy, when it comes to employment, when it comes to health care. You don't see that.
Yes, let's move on.
You don't see that, I'm asking.
Yeah, no, I don't. Let's move on.
Let me go back to Joe Arpaio.
Yeah, the man who thought Hitler had a good idea.
And what was that idea?
Well, he got things done. Is what Arpaio said of Hitler.
And
he got things done.
If the folks in Arizona elected and they continue to re-elect Sheriff Joe Arpaio to protect them, to uphold the law of Arizona, what is wrong with that?
Well, he's disobeying the law. In fact,
how is he disobeying the law?
Well, there are several different things that I document in that article. For example, cruel and unusual punishment, for example, the kind of humiliation and emasculation that he uses as punishments.
Like what, for example?
Well, he forces the prisoners to walk around in pink underwear.
And what's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that? It's humiliating.
I have seen football players walk around with pink.
I know. That's humiliating, too. I don't like that either.
Well, okay. Well, at least I agree on that. As far as
you do. But so it's not okay to do it in the prison either.
Right. It's not.
It's not okay.
No, I want him to do it in the prisons, but I don't want the football players to make a fool of themselves.
Why not?
Because when you commit a crime, you deserve what you get.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, I thought the idea of our prison system was for rehabilitation.
No, it's to punish.
I see. So why don't we just starve them?
I like that idea.
Okay.
Because if they knew before they commit the crime that they would starve in prison, I guarantee you crime rate would go down.
So, maybe whip them?
Whatever it takes, sir. Put them back on chain gang. Make them work on the roads.
Wow. Okay. So basically, you have you want to go back to 1850, and I want to go back, and I want to move forward to 2050.
I want to go back to punishment. Doctor, how can people get to your website and get your books and read these articles? Your articles.
Well, the article that you're describing, Angry White Men, is on the Huffington Post. There's an article on Salon.com that's an excerpt from the book about men who go postal in their workplaces, and just let me clarify for your listeners. When I list Clint Eastwood, I'm not listing Clint Eastwood the actor. I'm listing the character that he plays in the movie Gran Torino,
right.
Walt Kowalski. It's not Clint Eastwood that I'm interested in there. It's the character that he's playing.
You know what I realized in speaking with you, and I run into a lot of liberal men. Liberal men think and act and feel like liberal women. And I've noticed that liberal men hate masculinity. They turn away from their own natural nature to that of a woman. And I wonder, how does that happen to a man? How did it happen to you?
It's well, I reject categorically that argument. Although I'm interested to know that was your perception. To me, the ideals of masculinity may be familiar to you because I think they're the core of our Judeo-Christian heritage. The idea, for example, of honor, of integrity, of doing the right thing, of speaking truth to power, of standing up for the little guy.
Limbaugh, those guys do.
You asked me a question. Let me finish because this is going to be my last comment because it's beyond the time that we had agreed I would speak.
Well, I appreciate you, Steve.
Here's what I said. I said I embrace a masculinity that is eternal, that is honorable, that is part of our Judeo-Christian heritage. You might call it Homeric. You might call it Shakespearean. It's about honor, integrity, doing the right thing, standing up for the little guy, speaking truth to power.
Well, you should be embracing all these guys you listed. You should be embracing all these guys you listed as
absolutely not,
angry
because they
men.
Do not embrace that at all. They do not stand up for the little guy. They do not do the right thing.
That's
they do not
true,
speak
sir.
Truth to power. Well, that's my perception.
Let me go to Greg out of Delaware.
I'm sorry. Our time's up. I have to go teach my class right now.
Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate it, sir.
I'm very sorry.
No. I understand. You were here until as time promised, so I appreciate that.
Okay. Well,
will you
then.
come back?
Maybe.
Okay. All right, sir.
Bye.
Bye now. Yeah, he has to go teach a class, folks, and it is a little after the time allotted. And so no chicken song for him. He hung in there. He does have a class. I wish he was here to take your calls, but let me go to Greg out of Delaware. Greg, thanks for calling. Thanks for holding.
I started out as a social sciences major,
and
I got straight A's in it, so nobody can say I didn't understand what they were teaching. And I switched to business because my thought was, after listening to them, they would tell us things like white people, which I am, and a businessman, which I am, secretly conspired to create poor people to sell their used stuff to. And I've been in business for 35 years. I've yet to meet another white person who said, let's conspire to create poor people so we can sell our used stuff to them.
Yes.
And then they also told us that white businessmen wanted poor people to do the crummy jobs. But if there were no poor people, janitors would maybe make more than executives because nobody would want to do it. So they would get, or else it would be an entry-level job for like high school kids and so on.
Yes.
And these guys, I really wish I had a chance to talk to them.
Well, we're trying to get him back when he can stay for that whole hour.
Yeah, he's fantastic in that he holds up an unapologetic example of where a liberal person is coming from.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I say that people who are on the side of good, they have to become as confident and take a strong stand for what is good as well. Then we can win over these people. These people who are on the side of liberalism, right now they feel emboldened because Obama's in the White House. So they can say whatever they want and do what they want. And they're trying to get everything done while Obama's there because they know if conservatives ever take over again, it's over for them.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I really love about your show is you always unapologetically state your position, where even most of the other conservative shows I listen to, even though they say the right things, they're always qualifying it or apologizing it first, where you just take the high ground and you're confident in your position, and it comes off so much stronger without you even having to, raise your voice or anything.
That's how it was in the good old days when boys were boys and men were men. So that's all I know at this point. I cannot. I can't see myself being weak like that. It's ridiculous, especially if I'm halfway of a man. Bible go-to guy, good morning, sir.
Yeah, I wish I could have been on with your guest. That was an excellent guest. And
yes.
All I wanted to say
love
about
those
that,
types of guests.
What they do, and Greg pointed out some of the brainwashing that they do receive. And so they operate their research. You know how he proclaimed, well, all my opinions are from my research. No.
Yeah, right.
He goes in with a premise. And then he conducts his research based on that premise. See, that's why you have government-trained, university-trained people destroying the financial system, destroying the social sciences systems, because they go in with a premise and then they skew the statistics to favor what they're saying. And he exposed himself when he said that they're not homosexuals, the ones who goes after little boys, because they're going after children. Well, if they were going after children, they would just go after little girls.
That's right. Thank you, Bobby. Go to guy. Back in a moment, folks. Rick, good morning, sir. You're on the air.
You know what, man? When you go to these professors, man, I don't know, they get so headstrong that they think that, like when you hit the professor you had on it just before.
Yes.
He's going to say that it's wrong. He talked about jail is supposed to be a rehab. No, jail's primary thing.
I know. When we get to a point that jail is a rehab, a place for rehabilitation? Everybody will be in jail if that's the case.
Absolutely, and the reason why is it's because mostly it's blacks getting up in there. I guess that make us feel good, because since there's so many blacks in jail, I guess that make us feel good that it's jail is the rehab. No, jail, number one thing. I used to be a correction officer in the military. And when you come in there, it's punishment first. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't mind a prisoner trying to do something to better himself, but his primary reason for being in jail is punishment first.
That's right. And he can better himself by sitting in jail, thinking about what he's done, put him out there on the highway, let him build roads and work hard, take away his color TV. Then he would be rehabilitated that way.
Exactly. Matter of fact, they should not be in there eating better than we eat out here.
That's right.
And just another thing, too.
Ray, I got to run. I'm so sorry. I'm running out of time, but I appreciate it, buddy. Let me go to Jarvis out of Nashville real fast here. Jarvis, good morning, sir. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, that's good that professor you had on there, he said the jail was a rehab. So what is the rehab place?
I know.
That's what I was trying to figure out. I was like, I think, college, like you said, man, make most people stupid.
It does. It
And
brainwashes them, it dumbs them down, and takes them away from wisdom.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for him, man. And he's teaching people at that, and that's something.
Yeah, it is, man.
Man,
That's why I say
terrible,
that
man.
parents need to stop sending their children to these public schools.
Indeed, man. Indeed.
Thank you,
But
Jarvis.
I hear the music, man.
Yeah.
Holla at you.
Thank you, buddy.